Hi everyone, I'm Abigail. This is Bentley, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
Today we are joined by legendary author Daniel Handler
Ooh, if he's legendary, then why does that name not mean anything to me?
because he writes kids' books using the name Lemony Snicket.
Oh, you mean the series of unfortunate events off?
Yep, him.
He's a legend.
I know. I have no idea how we got him.
Yom
Because you
Kippur
asked
is
nicely.
coming up. Yom Kippur is coming up soon, so maybe it has something to do with that.
Whatever the reason, Mr. Handler, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. You asked very nicely. That's how I ended up here. But I hope Yom Kippur goes well for everybody too.
There are a lot of books we've never read. One of those books is The Bear's famous invasion of Italy. We love how you use the narrator in your books. How did that book from the 1940s Italy end up in your hands as a kid and influence your writing?
I like so much that you began with that question. Yes, the book is called The Bear's Famous Invasion of Sicily, which is an island that is part of Italy. And that ended up in my life because my great aunt Vera was a children's librarian in Los Angeles. And when she retired, she had a bunch of children's books that she gave to me when I was a baby. And they stayed in my room. I didn't pay a whit of attention to them because I was a baby. But then as I grew older, I began to notice suddenly the books that were in my room, and I took that one down and I read it, and it became one of my favorite books in the world. And one of the things that I liked about it was that the narrator keeps saying that the illustrator is getting everything wrong. So the narrator will say, it doesn't look a thing like the way this man drew it. I don't know what that man was doing. He's got it all wrong. And then when I was older, I realized that Dino Buzzati, the author, was also the illustrator. So he was really arguing with himself. And as someone who argues with myself pretty often, I was charmed by that.
By using Lemony Snicket as a character in your books, you are actually in your own books. How fun is that?
Um, Everything about writing a book is fun to me. I like wandering around thinking of an idea. I like writing my ideas down on index cards that I stack into little piles. I like writing the rough draft of a book on a legal pad. And then I like having a rough draft that I bind together like this and I carry around with me and try to make it better. I like thinking of characters. I like thinking of plots. I like thinking about sentences. The whole thing is fun for me.
Your dad left in Germany in 1938. He was Jewish, so if he hadn't left, chances are we wouldn't have Lemony Snicket. Do you ever think of the culture and innovation the world lost because of the Holocaust?
Yes, I do. As you said, my father left when he was a child in the late 30s, and I grew up surrounded by a family that was very close to me emotionally, and I saw them all the time for different holidays, but they weren't close to me on the family tree. They weren't like a first cousin, they were like second cousins, they were third cousins, they were removed. And the reason why was that so many people in my extended family were wiped out. So many didn't make it out of Germany. And so I grew up hearing about people who hadn't made it, about schemes people used to try to get out of Germany in time, about when it worked and when it didn't work. And so I was very aware not only of my own family that I loved, but of the people who were missing. And so that was just one family. If you start thinking about all the families that are affected by something like that, it's very devastating. And that's still devastating today when I look at armed conflicts around the world and other disasters, which a lot of people are affected, is that even if you don't know anybody there, you're going to know somebody who knew somebody there eventually, because that's how the world works. And there's so many people who have not had the chance to live a lucky life the way I have and the way I'm going to guess you guys have.
Can you tell us about a time when you were doing something and you noticed someone or something and thought, I need to put that into a book?
Yes. Oh my God. So many times. I carry a notebook with me wherever I go. This is the current notebook I have. And when I hear somebody say something or when I notice it, I write it down. And so I'm looking here. Oh yeah. So a few days ago, I was in a restaurant, and at the table, a few tables over, a man reached down and took out of his bag one pair of glasses, and he wore them for about 10 minutes. And then he put them down and he put on another pair of glasses and he wore them for 10 minutes. And then he took them down and he put on another pair of glasses and he wore them for 10 minutes. What in the world could that have been? I didn't ask him because it's more fun for me to just write it down and then go home and make it up later. But now when I think about it, I think, okay, maybe you have one pair of glasses for seeing far away and you have one pair of glasses for seeing near you. Do you really have to switch in the middle of eating lunch? And then a third pair of glasses? What could that even be? I don't know.
You clearly enjoy making orphans suffer, and we clearly enjoy reading about it. But did you
Hmm.
ever go too far and have to tone it back a bit?
Tone it back a bit? I don't know. I mean, that's really a matter of opinion. Some people think all Lemony Snicket books are terrible. Some people are delighted by them and wish that even more terrible things happen. So I think in terms of what a line is about something that you want to read in a book or don't read in a book, I think that's an individual decision. That's why I'm always opposed to censorship or book banning, because I think you should make up your own mind about what you want to read. You shouldn't have someone tell you that a book isn't available. But I think that in general, when we read a story, we want something exciting or even terrible to happen, right? Like if I gave you a choice right now and I said, I'm going to tell you one of two stories. One is about a time that I ate a piece of licorice, and another is about a time when I broke both legs while I was escaping from an alligator. You would definitely want to hear the second story. And why? It's terrible because terrible things are happening. It's automatically interesting. That's why I have, if you can see behind me, I have a piece of art that says trouble with an axe in it. Because when I get stuck, when I don't know what to happen next in a story, I think, oh yeah, trouble. Trouble's a good thing to put in a story. Let's find some trouble and put that in there.
We heard how the name Lemony Snicket came about. You did
Hmm.
research for your first book and didn't want to use your real name when
Yeah.
they asked you your name. You just had to give them a name quickly. While a normal person might say John Smith, you said Lemony Snicket. That's odd. Is being odd what makes you great at what you do?
I don't know. I guess so. Do you think there's such a thing as a normal person? I don't know. I think all of us are odd in one way or another. So I'm odd in certain ways that where I might use an unusual name when I'm stuck and I don't know what to say out loud. But other people are odd in different ways. And I think the more I get to know people, the more I wander the world and I meet people. I haven't really met a truly normal person yet, including you guys. You guys seem a little strange to me. Like
We
Abigail, you
agree.
keep looking off to the side. I can't tell if there's an imaginary person there or a real person. Bentley, you keep looking down in your lap. I don't know if there's some kind of sinister creature or if you've just written down your questions there. Everything seems a little suspicious to me. So you guys are an example of people who are not normal.
If you are interested in stories with happy endings, you would be better off reading some other book. In this book, there is no happy ending, there is no unhappy, there is no happy beginning, and very few happy things in the middle. You've hooked me with your first two sentences. In a kid's book, how important are the beginnings and how much do you work on them just to get it right?
Oh, I try to work on everything over and over and over. I think beginnings are important, but I think endings are important too. Sometimes when you're reading a book and you reach the ending, it's disappointing. The middle can be important because if it gets boring, then you think maybe I won't finish this book after all. But it's true that I think when I open a book that I'm reading and I look at it and the first few sentences aren't interesting, I think, oh, is this really what I want to read today? And so, yeah, I try to work on my opening sentences over and over again. I'm working on the first chapter of a book right now, and this is like the probably like the eighth draft of the opening of the book because it isn't right yet. So I'm working on it over and over again. I hope I get it right.
If you want to be a writer, should you change the way you read and look at books?
Well, I don't know if you need to change it. I think if you are interested in writing, the important thing to do is to keep reading and to keep writing. So if you are a fan of books, and it would be a little strange to me if you wanted to be a writer but you didn't like books, I think that then you'd really be in trouble. Then you can just read a bunch of them. But I really recommend writing a lot too. It's great to carry a notebook with you or a little pad, whatever kind of excites you and makes you want to write stuff down. Sometimes even when I'm watching television or if I'm sitting talking to someone in a cafe, I will have a piece of paper with me and I'll just write something down and make me kind of feel good to get my sentences in practice. So that's what I think the most important thing is.
You mentioned your thoughts a bit about this earlier. You have had books banned for really stupid reasons. Now books are being banned as a strategy against certain people. Can you give us your thoughts on this?
Well, what would you guess my thoughts are based on what you know of me so far? Do you think I'm in favor of banning books as a strategy or against it?
Not
I
at
guess.
all.
Yeah,
Way
exactly.
against it.
Yeah. I think that people can make up their own mind about what they want to read. I think families can make up their own mind about what they want to read. Maybe one of you has a set of strict people in the family who says, I don't want you reading this. So then you have to go outside the house to read it so no one will know. I think librarians can choose what they want to put in their libraries or not. But I think people don't get to wander around saying, I don't like this book that's on the shelf. I'm going to take it down. In fact, next month in November, I'm doing a big banned books giveaway and a dance party. And it's called Everything on the Shelves because we're so excited to put everything on the shelves rather than taking them off. I think the more books that are on the shelves, the more readers will find stories that interest them. And if you don't like a story for whatever reason, you can just read something else.
Do you have any concerns about artificial intelligence and its possible impact on the future of publishing?
Sometimes I do, but honestly, I have more concerns about natural intelligence and its influence on publishing. I worry that people are not using their own intelligence enough. I think we can use our own intelligence. That's the intelligence that worries me more. And then we can worry secondarily about artificial intelligence.
What does it mean to you when you hear a kid who is a reluctant reader until they read your book?
What I think is that that is someone who's had another person in their life that's really been looking out for them. That's what makes me happy. So it's flattering that one of my books maybe turned out to be the magic one that got them excited. But really, what it means is that a parent or a teacher or a friend, someone was saying, I feel like maybe you want to read more than you do. Let's see if we can find you a good book. And I would love to live in a world where everybody had enough people who were looking out for them, not only in terms of reading, but in terms of everything that they need. Right? To look out and say, seems like you might need a little help. How can I help you? I think that's a beautiful community. So when I hear about someone who gets help because they haven't enjoyed reading and now they do, it makes me think, oh, good, they're being taken care of, at least in that way. That makes me happy. Speaking of happy, I keep seeing this thing in your background, Abigail, that says happy on its side. You have something on its side that says happy behind you.
Oh, it was a Mother's Day thing that I gave my email.
It was a Mother's Day thing? Oh, that you gave to your mother.
Yeah.
For a minute, I thought Abigail seems a little young to be a mother, but okay. I'm not going to say anything. Maybe she's adopted a child, but it was for your mother. I get it. So it just says happy, or what else does it say?
No, it says Happy Mother's Day,
Oh, okay.
but it says it lower.
I can only see the happy part, which is kind of charming.
As you're an accordion player, do you have a favorite klezmer song?
Oh, hmm. That's a tough question because I've played a lot of klezmer music and also because so many of the songs have kind of traditional Yiddish titles, so they don't always come to mind. Sometimes I'll be with some other klezmer musicians and um, I'll say, "Oh, I don't think I know this one," and then they'll start to play it, and I'll think, "Oh, I know this after all. I just forgot the title." But what I really like in a klezmer song is the part that's usually called a donya, which means some people are droning on. They'll just play a long note like, and then one person will get to do a little solo up there, and it sounds very beautiful and sad, which I really like.
What writers had the most influence on you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I get excited by so many different kinds of writers. When I was young, of course, I loved the Bear's Famous Invasion of Sicily. I also liked books by Beverly Cleary. I really liked a book called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry when I was young. When I got older, I got interested in Carson McCullers. I started reading the Pilla book. I've been reading some old Japanese poetry lately. That's super interesting to me. Oh my goodness, look at this book that I ordered. I had no idea it was this big when I ordered it. This is the name. This is a poet who I like. And so I said, oh, I'll just buy this book by this poet. Look how big it is. Dum dum dum. It'll take me a while to get through that book. But yeah, I read a lot of poetry and I love reading books from different countries that have been translated. I love thinking about corners of the world where I've never been and seeing how they tell stories there and what kind of stories are exciting to them. That's what I like.
What advice do you have for young writers?
I think it's important to eavesdrop. It's very important to listen in on other people's conversations and write them down. And when you eavesdrop, the really important thing is first you make up an excuse in case you're caught. Have the excuse first so that when you're caught, you have it right away. Otherwise, you get caught and you think, oh, yeah, I don't know, and you don't have time to make up an excuse. So before you eavesdrop, say, if they catch me, this is what I'll say. I dropped my pencil, so that's why I was down here. Or I was just walking down the hallway to get a towel. That's why I walked by your room. I wasn't eavesdropping, just things like that. But when you eavesdrop, you hear stories that wouldn't have occurred to you. And then again, you can write them down in your favorite notebook, and then you'll have all kinds of juicy details.
Can you tell us about a project that you're working on now?
I can tell you a little bit about it, but I can't tell you a lot about it. But I got very lucky last year, and I got to go to England. I got to go to the town of Oxford in England, where there is a famous university, also called Oxford. And I got to go into their libraries. And what I was most interested in was sculpture. So I took many, many notes on the history of sculpture and about interesting and fascinating and sometimes shocking things that sculptors have done. And now I'm working on a big book about a sculpture garden that I'm very excited about.
My cousin actually goes to Oxford.
Oh, yeah? Have you been there?
Not not yet.
Yeah, it's
What
really
age
fun.
is it for?
Sorry?
What age is it for?
For the book, you mean, or Oxford?
The book.
The book I think will be for slightly older young people. So maybe by the time it's done, you'll be older, unless something terrible happens to you, in which case you won't have to worry about whether you're reading my books or not.
Does it have a working title?
Not have a working title. Titles are tricky. When I think of a title, I write it down on one of my index cards and I prop it up on my desk so I can look at it every so often. And then sometimes someone else will come into my office, someone in my family or a friend of mine, and they'll say, "What's that?" And I'll say, "It's a title. What do you think?" And sometimes they'll say, Sometimes they'll say, "No, maybe it's good. I don't know." Yeah, titles are tricky.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
Time
Okay,
rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1. What is
Yeah,
your favorite phrase to use?
my favorite phrase to use. Let's not go overboard. I like to say that.
Number 2. What is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
One subject I would love to learn more about, jellyfish. I would like to learn more about jellyfish.
Number 3. What is your go-to snack food?
Go to snack food,
Mhm.
raw carrots. I love a raw carrot.
Number 4. What was your favorite book growing up?
Besides the Bear's Famous Invasion of Sicily, though we already talked about, I guess I would have to say The Headless Cupid by Zilpha Keatley Snyder. That was my other favorite book.
Number 5. If you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
Teleport somewhere? Well, it's really hot where I am right now. So I would like to go someplace cold because I'm too hot and sweaty. And the most exciting cold place that I've been was Fogo Island off the coast of Labrador in Canada, where there were many icebergs. So I'll teleport there, but I would like to bring my puffy coat. I'll put on my puffy coat before I teleport because it gets cold.
Number 6. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that just one? I guess invisibility. I think that would improve my eavesdropping. But in most movies, when you get to be invisible, you can only be invisible when you're naked, and I don't want to wander around naked all the time. So I would like to have some kind of invisibility where I also got to wear clothes.
Maybe an invisibility cloak.
Right, but then with the invisibility cloak, you're always worried that suddenly your elbow is going to show. So I just think
That's true.
somehow invisibility that would spread to my clothing. I don't want to be naked, and I want to just have a cloak on either. I want to wear regular clothes and be invisible.
Number 7. What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Oh, I guess it would have to be the Shmoo. I liked the Shmoo a lot. He was like a little ghost. Yeah.
Number 8. What is your favorite rainy day activity?
My favorite rainy day activity is to make a big bowl of soup and then watch one movie while the soup is stewing and getting delicious, and then watch another movie while you're eating the soup. That is the best thing to do whenever.
Nice. Number 9. If you could have any 3 dinner guests, who would they be?
Any three what?
Dinner guests.
Dinner guests. Oh, I'm glad you didn't say living or dead because I hate thinking about having dead people over for dinner. They always say, if you could have anybody, living or dead. And I think, what if they were dead and then they rose from the dead just to have dinner with me? How awkward that would be. So I guess if I would invite, we're talking about people that I admire, and I'm just going to pretend that they're not dead. So I'm going to say Duke Ellington, Nina Simone, and Haruki Murakami. Those are two jazz musicians and a Japanese writer who really likes jazz. So I think that would be a fun conversation.
Number 10. What is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Um, Turn around, go back, don't go in here. But the trouble is, I didn't listen to the advice, and then something terrible happened. I can't talk about it then.
You were awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well,
And
thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you so much for spending this time with us.
We can't
Sure.
wait to
I
read
hope you
your
guys get
future
to be in the
books.
same space soon, so you won't have to miss each other and you can hang out again.
Yeah.